Okay, this video is on one of the most famous examples of slavery, and that is the transatlantic slave trade. It's one of the most famous and one of the most influential types of slavery, especially in understanding the modern world in which we live in today. So what exactly is the transatlantic slave trade? The name transatlantic slave trade tells you what it is. Transcend the Atlantic slave trade. So a slave trade which transcended the Atlantic Ocean. African people, Europeans would go to the African coast and they would trade with Africans. And amongst the commodities that Africans would sell to the Europeans would be other Africans who would provide slave labor. These people would be put on ships. It's estimated that at least 12 million would be put on European ships on the coast of Africa to be sent to the Americas, either North America, South America, or the Caribbean island. 2 million would die on the route to get to the Americas because of the horrendous conditions in which they were packed on these ships. When they finally reached, it's estimated that at least 10 million arrived alive. So in a period from the 1500s to the 1800s, 300 years, at least 10 million Africans were transported from Africa to a different continent, either North America, South America, or the Caribbean islands. One of the largest systems of mass migration of human beings ever. And that's what we're looking at in this video. Now, this does not mean or imply that this is the only form of slavery or the only form of mass system of slavery. There are other examples. This video is not about the trans-Saharan slave trade. It is not about various other types of Arab slave trade, where Arabs would come and buy slaves from Africa and send them to the Middle East to work as slave labor. This is specifically on this type of slavery. Again, in human history, all types of people had been slaves historically. All types of people had owned slaves. You've had Europeans who had been slaves. You've had Europeans who had owned slaves. You've had Africans who had been slaves. You had Africans who had owned slaves. You had Asians who had been slaves. You had Asians who had owned slaves. It's existed historically. The focus of this video is, why did this system of slavery, where 10 million Africans were transported from one continent to another to work as slave labor, how did it come about, and what was its impact? So mainly focusing on how, as a consequence of the age of European exploration, did this system of slavery, mass system of slavery, in which 10 million people were transported to another continent to work as slave labor. That's the focus. Okay, so the transatlantic slave trade. Again, sometimes it's called, okay, so transatlantic slave trade transcend the Atlantic Ocean.